Hello and welcome to the Gooner Talk, back again with you guys for another show, for another episode of our Raw Reaction series, our Arsenal Daily Transfer Show, in which we keep you guys up to date with all the latest Arsenal transformation every single day. And there is now, I believe, 81 days left of the transfer window. This is episode 40. We've done 40 of these shows in a row now. So if you could drop a like on the video and subscribe to the channel, I really would appreciate it. As always, keeping you up to date and educating and detailing all of Arsenal's transfer targets with the tactical breakdown shows as well. Got a couple of those coming to you today, fingers crossed as well. I hope you enjoyed yesterday's game. The first game, of course, the European Championships, 3-0 victory for Italy, in which they absolutely dominated the Turkey side that showed nothing really at all. Really disappointing from Turkey. But for my fantasy team with Immobile, Spinazzola and Insigne, it was a pretty good day for my fantasy team for European Championship. So I was very happy with that. And of course, in my closed circle of friends, I do have France and Italy in my sweepstakes. So fingers crossed, we're pushing towards a final. I mean, our sweepstakes really weird. We games like you gain money the further your team progresses in the tournament. So I can gain money for both France and Italy as they progress. So I'm looking forward to seeing those two hopefully go forward in their groups and qualify for quite late in the tournament. Anyway, I hope you're good. I hope you're well. Good morning, everyone. Let's move on to our first story of the day, which is, of course, about Granit Xhaka, the Arsenal Swiss midfielder. Is someone that I know divides plenty of opinion, but it does look like he is on his way out. And he was asked for the first time yesterday, the last time he's been able to speak, to be honest, really, about his future. And when asked, he said, "I am 100% focused here with the national team, and I want to keep that until the end of the tournament. What happens afterwards, you will see then, get to know about it. Everything else doesn't distract me. I am fit and motivated and looking forward to doing a lot of things in this tournament and the team," which basically says he's probably not going to leave until after the tournament now. They failed so far to get the deal done before the tournament started. Whether or not this happens during it, of course, you think Emi Buendia was away with the Argentinian national team and they sorted his deal to Aston Villa. So this could still go through, but it could be a case of Granit Xhaka very much going off to Roma in or just after the tournament's completion. When there's a bit of a break or when they get eliminated, we'll see what happens with that. But we may have to wait now a couple of weeks to see what's going on with his future. So that's that. Not a big story, but certainly one that we need to cover and talk about because he has been speaking about his future. Let's go on to the next one, which revolves around Kieran Tierney. Now, this is a bit of good news for Arsenal, of course. Chris Wheatley of Football London revealed the exclusive information that they have identified Tierney as a player that is going to be entering contract talks with Arsenal. Of course, it was previously reported about a month ago by David Ornstein, I think it was, that revealed that Arsenal are looking to extend his contract, but those talks have now started. So thank you ever so much, Arsenal, for finally doing something good, it seems, in this market specifically and getting these contracts sorted as early as possible. Because I don't know about you, but I'm sick to death of seeing Arsenal wait for the last minute to get players signed up to new deals. He deserves one. He needs it. We need him to sign one. Get that new deal sorted. Get him signed up to a contract that's longer. So one, protects his value. If he does leave, it will go for a massive fee. But more importantly, that we keep hold of him for as long as feasibly possible. So that is a good piece of news for Arsenal as well. Without further ado, though, let's move on to the fun stuff and go on to the possible outs or rather ins of the day. And we start off with Manuel Locatelli. The Italian midfielder, of course, started and played very well in yesterday's game against Turkey. And supposedly Arsenal are keeping tabs on this guy, looking at him basically throughout the tournament, seeing if he's worth pursuing. The problem is that I imagine Sassuolo will be after a ridiculous fee, and Arsenal will certainly not be the only ones interested in him. There are a number of Italian sides at the top of the Serie A table that are certainly looking at Locatelli. He is someone that has impressed a lot since developing at Sassuolo and doing really well there, and has taken that Marco Verratti spot with no problem whatsoever. In fact, there's a good chance he might even keep the PSG midfielder out of it for the foreseeable future in the tournament if he plays like he did yesterday, which was excellent. He is obviously a very, very good player that I think would complement a lot of Arsenal's play. The problem is that typically when you see teams like Juve or Inter go in for these guys from the lesser Italian clubs in the league, they often, up sticks and go off there rather than moving abroad. It's very rare you see it. Jorginho is one of the few. And to be honest, if we're thinking about the Jorginho move, you have to think about the fact that Maurizio Sarri went to Chelsea and then obviously brought him in. So you had that link. Whereas Italian players going to the Premier League it's not a common occurrence. It's not a common occurrence seeing them leave Serie A much at all, to be honest. So I think what we will see is him probably move to a Juve or an Inter, depending on what happens. Although Inter Milan, of course, have got some financial trouble at the moment. Let's go on to our next story. I'm trying my best to keep hold of the time codes in these as well for you guys. Let's scroll down to the next one, which is on Sambi Lokonga, the Belgian midfielder from Anderlecht, is still being very much linked with a move to Arsenal. The Athletic revealed that we are, as a club, very intrigued by him, but there is news of some serious interest from elsewhere. No, not Leicester, thank God. But Monaco are a club that have cropped up alongside the likes of AC Milan and Borussia Dortmund as very keen on the player. You have to think about the Monaco in a situation where they could lose Tchouameni, the midfielder that was the young Liga player of the season last year, and they see Lokonga as basically the perfect replacement for him. So that link makes complete sense, whether there's credibility to it or just because it fits really nicely. We'll have to wait and see. But from what I think and what I believe from seeing and reading the reports is that is certainly a destination that would make a lot of sense for Lokonga. He'll be playing week in, week out for them if Tchouameni was to leave and being able to develop where he needs to. Whereas if he was to come to Arsenal, there's no guarantees that he necessarily starts because we don't know if we're going to be buying him and someone else. We don't know if we're still going to be going for a Neves or a Basuma or etc. So that's a player that Arsenal will face a significant amount of competition for. Let's go on to the next one, which is looking at Tyler Adams, the Australian-American midfielder, of course, from RB Leipzig, previously of the MLS, is still being linked with a move to Arsenal. His versatility and his ability to play in more than one position is certainly an attractive prospect to the Gunners. But there are some issues with trying to get him out because I think about this guy as someone that is at an RB Leipzig. He's playing every single week. And is he really going to come to Arsenal where he's going to get maybe a bit part position in the team, not playing week in, week out in Champions League football? Maybe he would play week in, week out in the league. It just depends on where Arteta would see him playing. But we are, as always, going to do a dedicated tactical breakdown looking at him. I've got a German expert lined up for you all, a very good one at that too, to give you guys some information on him. So that'll be out this afternoon at some point. I'm going to try and schedule these shows in between the fixtures of the European Championship so you guys don't have to miss any football. And in between, you can watch some tactical breakdowns as well. So that is that. Let's move on to the next and final big story of the day, which is, of course, focusing around Ben White. The Brighton centre-back is someone that is dividing plenty of opinion amongst the Arsenal fan base today. The Athletic reported yesterday that Arsenal are very, very much interested, with credible reason for them to believe that they are going to be going for him this summer and trying to communicate with Brighton the hope that they would want to bring Ben White into Arsenal's team. The figures that are being touted around are between 40 and 50 million pounds. Obviously, that means we're going to do a tactical breakdown on Ben White, asking how good is he in comparison to, say, some of our other centre-backs, and of course looking at the comparison between him and Saliba and Holding and Gabriel, because I think it's important that we look across the whole defence rather than looking at how he compares maybe to some other targets in this case, because it does look as a real possible target for Arsenal this summer. Now, I did want to discuss the importance of this a little bit briefly on the show and get your thoughts, of course, in the chat box, because it is causing a hell of a lot of discussion, this one. Now, for me, I am a bit frustrated at some of the response to just completely just throw this guy under the bus in regards to a transfer. People saying he's average, people saying he's not good. One, you haven't watched him. I'll just put that out there. If the opinion is he's average or not good, you've just not watched him properly. Because if you actually go and watch Brighton play, or you go and watch how he's played for England the last 2 games, he's a good player. He's a very good player. And he does really well in the Premier League. And he's transitioned since his time at Leeds back to Brighton exceptionally well. And he's one that looks to be on kind of a really good trajectory. Watching a bit for Leeds in the Championship and how he's taken his game to the next level into the Premier League, it has been huge. And I mean, one of the really things that frustrated me yesterday was seeing people put a clip up of a game, I think it was against Man United, where Rashford just turns him inside and out. And people were going, oh my God, look at this clip. Like, he's awful. And you're going, are you judging him off one clip? So we'll show you that video of Aubameyang missing that chance against Olympiacos. Oh, look at Aubameyang. He's awful. Misses everything. It's the blinkered nature, I think, that we need to look at. Now, it is important to, of course, remember that we have some really good defenders, and think about the fact that William Saliba is at the club, and we're thinking about how we're going to bring him through. There's a lot of questions surrounding him, which does interest me, because William Saliba is very much a liked figure from most of the Arsenal fan base, you would think. The interviews, the controversial video, none of that stuff has kind of deterred the liking of him, and quite right, he's a good player. However, people have been able to see a hell of a lot more of Ben White, or they've been able to, doesn't necessarily mean they have, in comparison to Saliba. And what you would say is that his performances, Ben White, are a lot more mature than that of Saliba, despite being of just a very young age, 22, 23 years of age. Statistically, interestingly, Saliba comes out improving in a number of areas, obviously playing in a very different league, and that's something that you have to take into account. But it is interesting how kind of quickly people are writing Ben White off, and also the fact that Arsenal are in a situation where I always look at a team and go, if there's an opportunity to invest and be ruthless with the squads and upgrade the squads and bring in a player, no matter the position, no matter how high of a priority it is. And you don't even know how much Arsenal's transfer budget is, for sure. People are saying that we're going to throw all of Arsenal's budget at Ben White, which isn't true, because one, you don't know what Arsenal's budget is. Secondly, we don't know how many we're going to get rid of. And thirdly, we don't know what's coming in regards to investment, if any, this summer. If you actually think about the fact that you've got other teams in the league that have a series of centre-backs at the club as well, Manchester City, Laporte, Ruben Diaz, Stones, Ake. They've also got a couple of youngsters there as well. Man United, Lindelof, Maguire, Eric Bailly, and Tuanzebe, and they've got a couple of youngsters. Phil Jones is still there as well. Chelsea, Christensen, Zuma, Rudiger, and Thiago Silva, all still there as well. And they've got, again, some youngsters coming through. Liverpool have just signed Ibrahima Kamate. They've got Virgil van Dijk, Joe Gomez, and Joel Matip there as well. And if anything should teach you that you need a good group of centre-backs at the club, it should be Liverpool's last season. Looking at what happened to their backline when it was decimated by injury without the relevant cover. They had to wait to January to then panic buy both. Ben Davies, of course, is another player you could add to that list, and Ozan Kabak. And now this summer they've gone out and signed Kanate as well. And they've still, of course, got Phillips, who played there too. And they've obviously got Reece Williams as well, who's another youngster there too. So to the point where going, do we really need to invest in? Yes, we need to invest in the squads. We need to invest everywhere and upgrade in as many positions as feasibly possible. It is not about ignoring a fact that we've got these other positions that are important, and they are. And it doesn't mean that if we go and sign Ben White, we're not going to sign a central midfielder. It doesn't mean that necessarily. Arsenal's centre-back situation around Ben White is very much, well, we've got these 6 guys here that can play centre-back. Now, the futures of these guys are very different to one another. Holding's just signed a new deal. However, the reaction to Holding as a player amongst the Arsenal fan base is obviously very much one of, I don't think, and I think a lot of people don't think he can be the long-term centre-back option for Arsenal. And if there is an ability to upgrade on someone who has been our starting right-back this season, a right-sided centre-back this season, we should do it. William Saliba, of course, is still very much an unknown. We don't know how he will get on in the Premier League. I want to see him in the Premier League. I want to see how he gets on in the Premier League, but we don't know. We cannot come to some conclusion with any amount of legitimacy to say that, yes, he will be a success, because we don't know. The same goes for Mavropanos, who I think is probably going to be more of a sellable asset to Arsenal this summer. I think they look at him as someone they can get a good fee for. Someone in the Bundesliga will probably move for him and try and buy him, and they can get between 15 to 20, maybe even more, in regards to million euros that can then be added to the transfer kitty this summer. Chambers has 1 year left on his deal and has shown to be a very capable right-back option for us, which means that we can either use him as a centre-back or a right-back. He looked very good, I thought, a right-back. Not good enough to be our starter, and that's why we should still be going out. But maybe they see Cedric as more expendable, and maybe Cedric will look for a move. I know for a fact that he wasn't particularly happy about the fact that he's not playing, and he wasn't playing at the end of last season. So maybe he will look for a move. And then you've got the left-hand side, which, by the way, I should add, is where Saliba plays. Saliba plays a hell of a lot and has done for Nice on the left side of the 2 central defenders. He played on the left-hand side of Fofana in a back 3 at Saint-Etienne. He plays a lot on the left. So Ben White coming in as a right-sided centre-back or as in and in a back three, of course, as well, does not change the situation with Saliba because they play on different sides. You could argue that Saliba's coming in to be that next guy in line to Gabriel, who can play on the right and can play on either side. Pablo Mari is very much an experienced player, was very cheap, and is expendable. Let's be real. Pablo Mari, whilst as good as he has been, which is decent and solid, not outstanding, just good, he's an expendable player. He's someone that you're not looking for Arsenal for the long term. He's just there for depth and adding the cover that we needed. But if he doesn't play games because we're giving minutes to Saliba, we're giving minutes to Gabriel, we're giving minutes to Ben White next season, that's not a problem. That's really, it's not like we invested huge amounts of money in him. It's not an issue. And so two or three of these guys, arguably four if you include Holding, are expendable players. And then you've got a core group of, say, Saliba, Gabriel, Ben White, and then you can add one of the others to the extra four. And still, we're not getting up to that level of our other top four competitors. There is so much scope for Arsenal to improve the team. And just because we've got a situation where we need to invest in midfield, we need to invest in right back, we need to invest in attacking midfield, just because Arsenal are linked to a centre-back, it does not mean we are still not going to go and try and improve those areas. You've also got to factor in the point where there is a very growing suspicion in my mind that a three-at-the-back system could return to Arsenal. And you should remember that that is not a bad thing. There are plenty of teams throughout Europe that are having great success playing a three-at-the-back. Look at the Champions League winners for some inspiration. There are plenty of teams playing a three-at-the-back system that is very, very effective. And having more centre-backs that play in a back three, like Ben White can, and he can play in a back four, and Saliba can play in a back four or a back three. Gabriel has shown he can too. So has Pablo Mari. Holding, I feel like, needs a back three to be really more successful, as did David Luiz, who we've lost, by the way. It just makes it gets really frustrated for me that it's just so easy to just cast aside and not think and not take a step back. It's something that I feel like we need to do as Arsenal fans sometimes. You need to take a breath. You need, when you see a story, don't just tweet it straight away. Oh my God, not good enough, average, all this. When you see a tweet saying that Arsenal are linked to this player, just take a step back, take a breath, think about the situation, think about why it might be that Arsenal are linked to him. Think about how good he is. Maybe do a little bit of research. And then when you've collected your thoughts and you've actually built up an argument, then go and tweet. Then go and give your opinion by all means. But if you're going to let your System 1 brain react so quickly to a news story, what you're going to say is not really going to be a very measured and calm response, is what I would say. So just think about that before we go and blast players that might end up signing and being quite good for the club. Anyway, let's go and have a look at what you guys are saying in the chat box to round off today's show. Let me I went for 10 minutes talking about Ben White. Jesus Christ. 18 minutes Q&A. You see, I'm writing down all of these timestamps for you. Here we go. D. Roberts, maybe Arteta wants to play 3-4-3. Maybe so. I actually think Partey would really suit a 3-4-3 playing in the middle, have that security for back three behind him so he's not always having to cover whoever's to the left of him. If you add another mobile player or another player like Ruben Neves, I think that system works really well. Ruben Neves, anyway, has been succeeding in a back three, or rather in front of a back three. So maybe that link to him is further evidence that we could be switching systems. And I'm fine with it. And I really would like to see Bukayo Saka be given a chance to play the left wing-back role again. I loved him playing that left wing-back role. I thought he was great. I thought he got forwards. I thought Tierney played really well on the left-hand side of the back three as well. There's loads of opportunities. I'd still like to see Saka further up the field as well and playing in the front three too. But he can play that role really, really well with a player in front of him that he can combine with, overlap, get the triangles working. I mean, the goal that we scored against Crystal Palace, if you think back to the end of the season, where he was overlapping with Tierney and Smith Rowe and the back heel and all that and crossing for Pepe, those types of triangles happen so much more often when you're playing a 3-4-3 system. And it's just, for me, it really works. And I quite like it. I'm not saying that we have to go to a back three, that we can stick with the back four. But I actually think there is a lot of scope for us to use that formation in a really successful and effective way. I think it also combats other sides playing a back three that often overrun us in the wide areas when we're playing simply a back four. And so we often fail against those teams because we can't cope with the overloads in the wide areas. So it's really important for that. Scrubber Steve says, do you think we can find better value for money than spending £50 million on Ben White? I won't bemoan the deal if we do it. And it is a good question, Steve. I think it's important to ask, is 40 to 50 million pounds, why am I so small? 40 to 50 million pounds is a lot of money. It is the money that you pay at the moment for that type of centre-back. And the amount of people going, oh, it's English tax. You can't afford to buy into English tax. It just exists. It's just one of those things. It's a premium on Premier League players and English players. And when you combine those two together, it's even more. I mean, you look at the figure for Jadon Sancho going right now. It's going to be upwards of 100 million still. And you look at like John Stones, how much he went for, Maguire, how much he went for, how much Leicester bid for Dunk from Brighton that got rejected, which was around £40 million. They are expensive. English centre-backs are expensive, but they can be really, really worth it. And especially if you find one that is on the way up, like Ben White is, it could be really interesting to see how he gets on. And that's what frustrates me about just wiping him off the slate. No, not interested. Don't want him. That's not the way to approach the deal. Is there other options out there? Of course there is. But Arsenal find themselves in a situation right now where we haven't got any Champions League, any European football for that matter, where we need a rebuild, where we need to be smart with the decisions that we make. And is the likes of Jules Koundé, is the likes of Tapsoba going to want to come in? It's going to be really difficult to convince them and for their clubs to be convinced to selling them. And I mean, we've heard the rumours that Koundé is not interested in the move to Arsenal, despite Arsenal's interest. And we know that Arsenal are very much interested in a centre-back this summer. That seems very clear from the amount of players that will be being linked to. Alan says, do you honestly think any player who has Champions League next year will come to Arsenal? Yes, I still do believe that, because I think there is the attraction of finances, the attraction of London, the attraction of Arsenal itself is still a very attractive thing. And we hear that from people that are very much really genuinely in the know in the transfer market about players' opinions of Arsenal. It's just when Arsenal have to compete against other Champions League clubs like Chelsea, United and City, that's when they will find it difficult. So that's the struggle they will have. Esteban says, how do we not like a 22-year-old English international that is showing a lot of potential? It beats me, man. It beats me. Let's scroll up a little bit more. Robin says, wouldn't a back three formation means losing a lot of talent on the bench? Tierney, Gabriel, and if we get a number 10, it would be redundant. Not necessarily, because it depends on the number 10 you get. It depends on where they play. I mean, you look at Rodrigo de Paul, for instance, who we've been linked to, can play as a number 10, has played in more of a reserved 8/10 role for Udinese when they've been playing their 3-5-2 formation. So it really depends on who we sign. And you do need variation. We are in, believe it or not, there are 3 competitions. People are just completely disregarding the FA Cup and the League Cup. I want to see Arsenal without European football going for the cups next season still. Trust me, I want to get into Champions League. That's the priority. But without European football, I would still very much like us to compete for trophies next year. I love competing for trophies. I love going to finals. And frankly, our reputation in the League Cup is a joke. It's something that we should improve on. It sets you up really well for the rest of the season. I mean, you look at how Man City use it as a basic springboard for them towards the end of the campaign. And also, winning the FA Cup, of course, there are benefits of that too. I'd just like us to have an actual opportunity of having enough of a squad to go in those 3 competitions at the same time, whilst maintaining the quality that you need in the Premier League. And for those going, oh, the FA Cups don't matter. Well, the amount of people that were moaning at Arteta for rotating heavily against Southampton in the FA Cup, the hypocrisy is real, people. It is real. Let's scroll down a little bit more and get some more questions. Yo-Yo says, does Arteta's centre-back obsession and goalkeeper interest not suggest that the attackers at the club were inhibited by the back 5 last season? I mean, centre-back obsession is a bit of a strange term, seeing as it's an area of the pitch where we do need to improve on the players that are there. So obsession or savviness, probably the latter, to be honest. I don't think I don't think you can say there is a restriction on what a back 5 does, depending on how you use the back 5 or the back 3, whatever you want to call it. Depends the system that you use, depends the success of the players in the different positions. I don't think I looked at Chelsea last season and went, oh yes, Tuchel's system's really inhibiting their players. No, not at all. It depends how you use the system and what players are used in different areas. Adam says, why is Saliba getting constantly disrespected? He still hasn't kicked a ball for the Arsenal. I don't know what you mean by disrespect. I think there's a level of perspective that you need regarding Saliba, and you bring it up in the comment. He hasn't kicked a ball yet for Arsenal. So I think for me, it's very much about being and staying grounded about William Saliba and trying to understand that we are yet to see what he's capable of. So there's no point me getting my hopes up about Saliba being an absolute world beater and him being this unbelievable player that he's going to be the next Varane, etc. Because they're just words right now. And we've seen a glimpse of what he's capable of in Ligue 1. And we need to see whether he can translate that to the Premier League. Some players can. Some players have done it really successfully. His old teammate, Wesley Fofana, towards the end of the season, was looking, well, you know, he had up and I can't believe he got into some, I think did he get into a team of the season somewhere? I couldn't believe he got into that, but still he transitioned and he was able to work well in the Premier League. You look at Gabriel at Arsenal, started off really well and has tailed off a little bit. So it depends how Saliba transitions. It's a really difficult area of the pitch to know how a player is going to work because you're up against completely different level forwards to defend against on a more consistent basis. Whilst Liga is improving, the level of forwards in Liga in comparison to across the Premier League is obviously very different. And so therefore it's how you compete and compare. And also Saliba has been playing in a back three, which if it happens at Arsenal, which I'm fine with, but if he goes into a back four at Arsenal, I suppose that's, yeah. Although he has played in a back four as well at Nice alongside Jean-Claire Todibo. So, but he played in the back three a lot at Saint-Etienne as well. So there's a lot to think about. There's a lot to think about. Emmanuel says, keep Ainsley for a back three, because if you compare his performances in games he played last season in the wing-back position to the West wing-backs this season, he would probably come in the second to Reece James. It's a big shout, but maybe he has a good point. If we are going to switch to a three at the back system, is it worth selling someone like Cedric or selling someone like Chambers and then keeping hold of Ainsley Maitland-Niles? Is it worth doing that? Is he going to want to stay? Because from his comments, it's very, very difficult. Jasmeet says, I'll say 20 million up front for Ben White with a further 20 million based on add-ons. I think you're more likely to see 20 million up front, 15 million in installments and 5 to 10 million in add-ons rather than that. I don't think anyone's going to go for 20 million in add-ons. Usually add-ons are very, very small in comparison to the first payment. But yeah, people are saying, of course, you look at the figure, don't we? You look at 50 million or 40 million and we go, oh my God, that's so much money. But, you know, you forget that that will include bonuses, add-ons, and structures. Like, we don't know how it's going to be paid. And also, it's not even our money. Like, we always forget this. It's like, at the end of the day, as long as Arsenal sign a good player, that's all I care about. Like, I'm not really fussed about how much it costs. I just want them to do really well. That's all I want. But there is some interesting statistics about obviously how Arsenal have signed or however many starters since 2013, and we've never made a profit on any of them. And that is really bad. But there is also an element of, if you sign a player and they absolutely smash it, the price they cost kind of goes to your back of your mind, especially if you end up adding a fair few other players as well. If you start adding your Basumas, adding your Neves, adding your Celics or your right backs, whoever you want, your Aarons, it's, for me, it's happenstance. Like it's just a figure. It's just a number on a screen, as a friend of mine would say. So just, yeah, you know, it's, there you go. Tom, are you uploading on Spotify anymore? I can't really. Yeah, I should be, John. I don't know why. Now, hold on. I'll make sure I double check that's going up there. Today's will definitely go up. So apologies if it's not gone up. No Sleep says, seems... hold on. I've missed that comment now. Ugh. Where's it gone? No Sleep says, seems like a 3-4-3 for a counter-attacking style, but Arteta seems to have favour in a possession-based style this season. Shouldn't we focus on getting that right after changing up again? Well, I mean, we can say, should we focus on getting it right? But last season, whatever we were doing wasn't working, and that's why we ended up where we were. So arguably, we should focus on doing what we need to do to improve. Does it mean refining a system that's got us to 8th in the league? I don't know. It's very, very tricky to work out. Anyway, we are going to wrap today's show up there. Absolute pleasure, as always, guys, to speak to you. I will see you again very, very soon. It's been an absolute pleasure. I'll speak to you about the Tyler Adams tactical breakdown. I'll be doing the Ben White tactical breakdown as well. Plenty of content coming your way. Make sure you drop a like on the channel and subscribe if you are new with those notifications turned on. It's been a pleasure, as always. And as always, up the Arsenal.